Have you ever felt like you have a million tabs open in your brain?
Oh, yeah, constantly.
Right. You know that exact feeling, like you're sitting there trying to focus on a conversation with a friend, or you're drafting what should be just a super simple email.
Yeah, or just trying to watch a movie and actually relax for once.
Exactly. But there is this constant, low-level anxiety humming in the background. It is like a refrigerator motor you just can't tune out.
A really loud one, yeah.
A tiny voice whispering that you forgot to buy milk, or that you still haven't replied to your boss about those projections, or, that your car is making a weird metallic grinding noise and you really need to call the mechanic.
It is just an endless, exhausting cognitive hum.
It really is.
Yeah.
So today we are doing a deep dive into a framework that promises a complete transformation of that feeling.
And to be clear, the goal here isn't just a new way to write a grocery list.
Right. No, it is about moving from that state of chronic, low-grade overwhelm to a state of relaxed, highly productive control.
Which is a pervasive modern condition. I mean, we walk around carrying the weight of 1,000 incomplete commitments.
We really do.
And the source material we are examining today addresses this directly. We are looking at David Allen's methodology, which is famously known as Getting Things Done, or GTD.
Yeah, getting things done. But we aren't just going to recite the rules of his system.
No, definitely not. We are going to deconstruct the underlying mechanics of it, like the psychology of why our brains fail us so consistently.
And how to build what is essentially an external brain.
Exactly. Because the ultimate objective is to get your mental space back.
And man, is it ever desperately needed. I mean, I feel like the way we actually work day to day has completely mutated over the last few decades.
Oh, absolutely.
And our biological hardware just hasn't caught up at all. We are running modern software on ancient brains.
That is the crux of the issue right there. The nature of work itself has fundamentally shifted, but our psychological approach to it hasn't.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you look back at the industrial era, work had physical, tangible edges.
Right.
A field was plowed, or it wasn't.
Right, it was obvious.
A widget was physically assembled and moved down the line, or it wasn't. The work was self-evident. You could literally see the completion of a task.
But today, it's totally different.
Yeah, today the vast majority of us do what the late management consultant Peter Drucker termed knowledge work.
Right, knowledge work. And the terrifying thing about knowledge work is that it has zero physical edges.
None.
There is no factory whistle blowing at 5 p.m. telling you the widget is done and you can go home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, when is a marketing strategy truly done? When is an onboarding manual finished?
Never really.
Right. A project can always be researched a little more. A presentation deck can always be tweaked with a, slightly better font or graphic.
And emails. I mean, emails are an infinite self-replicating hydra.
They really are. There is no clear boundary where you can definitively say, I am completely finished with my professional obligations.
Yeah. And you add to that the sheer volume of data we are expected to process daily and the globalization of teams.
Oh, the constant connectivity.
Right. The expectation that you are reachable via your smartphone at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. It just blurs the lines between work, life, and personal time until there are literally no lines left.
I think that lack of boundaries is exactly what creates that hum you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. But here is where it gets really interesting for me. Because the promise of this GTD methodology isn't just about grinding harder.
Thank goodness.
Right. It is not some hustle culture manifesto telling you to wake up at 4 a.m. and just check off more boxes.
No, it's about achieving a state that martial artists call mind like water.
Mind like water. It is such a profound concept.
It really is.
Think about throwing a pebble into a totally still pond. How does the water react?
It responds perfectly to the input.
Exactly. It responds completely appropriately to the mass and force of the input. It ripples outward, and then it returns to calm.
It doesn't overreact.
Right. A pebble doesn't cause a tsunami. And it doesn't underreact either. It doesn't just ignore the pebble. It just engages appropriately and returns to baseline.
In high-level athletics, particularly in collegiate and Olympic rowing, they refer to a very similar state. They call it swing.
Well, swing, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it is a state of absolute arrival and frictionless motion. When a crew hits swing, the momentum comes from the synchronized movement itself.
So you aren't fighting it.
Exactly. You are no longer fighting the water through desperate striving. The boat seemingly carries you.
That sounds amazing.
It is. When you are in that state of swing or a mind like water, time tends to disappear. You are fully present with whatever you're doing.
Whether it's writing a complex report or just playing with your kids.
Right. Confident that it's exactly what you ought to be doing in that exact moment.
Which sounds idyllic.
Yeah.
But let's be real here. Why aren't we all walking around with minds like water?
Good question.
Because I certainly don't feel like a frictionless rowing team most days. I usually feel like an old computer that's about to crash.
That is a perfect analogy, actually.
Think about it. Your conscious mind, the part of you that is thinking and experiencing this very second, is like the computer screen. It is meant for focusing on one task at hand.
Right.
But our short-term memory, that is like the computer's RAM. If we keep holding on to all our incomplete tasks, unresolved commitments, and random anxieties in our short-term memory, that RAM just fills up.
And we all know what happens when a computer's RAM maxes out.
You get the spinning beach ball of death.
Everything just freezes.
Exactly. So to fix the computer, to achieve that mind like water, we first have to understand what exactly is eating up all that RAM and muddying the pond.
And the methodology calls this our stuff. And to manage our stuff, we have to grasp the psychology of open loops.
Open loops, man, just hearing the phrase gives me a tiny spike of cortisol.
I know, right?
It perfectly captures that nagging sensation.
Technically speaking, an open loop is any commitment, however big or small, pulling at your attention that doesn't belong where it is, the way it is. It is an internal contract you have made with yourself or with someone else that remains incomplete.
Right.
And here's the fascinating psychological trap. The scale of an open loop doesn't matter to your subconscious.
Wait, really? So my brain treats, like, fix the global supply chain the exact same as buy toothpaste.
On a neurochemical level, regarding how it consumes your attention, yes.
That is wild.
It is. An open loop can be a massive, life-altering goal, like restructure the entire corporate division. Or it can be microscopic, like replace the porch light bulb or buy dog food.
But the brain treats them the same.
If it has your attention and it isn't resolved, it is an open loop consuming your cognitive bandwidth.
And I've noticed our brains are uniquely terrible at managing these loops.
Mm-hmm.
It is like having a flashlight with dead batteries.
How do you mean?
Well, your brain doesn't remind you to buy batteries when you are actually standing at the hardware store right in front of the Duracell display.
No, of course not.
It is completely silent then. No, it reminds you that you need batteries when the power goes out at midnight and you are standing in the dark holding a dead flashlight.
Exactly.
What is the evolutionary benefit of that?
Honestly, there isn't one for the modern world. That is precisely how the subconscious mind operates. It is fundamentally reactive, and it lacks situational awareness.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, psychologists refer to this as the Zeigarnik effect. It is the tendency for the brain to remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed ones.
So it just holds on to them.
Right. Your subconscious has no sense of past or future. When you tell yourself, I need to do X, a primitive part of your psyche thinks you should be doing it right now, all the time.
So if I have 20 things on my mental to-do list,
Then you have instantly generated a continuous sense of personal failure because you physically cannot do all 20 things at the exact same time.
that makes so much sense. So your brain just keeps working overtime.
Recursively spinning on these incomplete items in the background, which actively diminishes your capacity to perform, to focus, and to think creatively about the task actually in front of you.
Okay, I hear that. But practically speaking, I kind of like keeping things in my head.
A lot of people do.
It feels faster, you know? Writing everything down feels like creating bureaucratic red tape for my own life.
It might feel faster in the micro moment of having the thought, but it is a massive cognitive drag in the macro. Keeping it in your head is what generates that hum.
So how do we stop it?
To stop the spinning, we have to transform amorphous stuff into defined actions. Stuff is anything you have allowed into your psychological or physical world that you haven't yet determined the meaning of or the desired outcome for.
Amorphous stuff.
Yeah. And this, by the way, is why traditional to-do lists are almost universally disastrous.
Oh, I am so glad we are bringing this up. Because I have tried traditional to-do lists and they just end up making me feel worse.
We usually do.
You look at a typical person's list and it just says things like mom, bank, VP of marketing, tires. That is not a list of actions.
No, it's not.
That is a list of anxiety triggers.
Because those words don't represent real work. They are just placeholders for unresolved problems. Think about your metaphor of the amorphous blob. I like to think of it like trying to swallow a watermelon whole.
A watermelon.
Yeah, when you look at the word bank on your list, it's a watermelon. It yells at you, decide about me.
Right.
But if you don't have the mental energy in that exact moment to do the heavy critical thinking required to figure out what bank actually means, like, do I need to transfer funds, call about a mortgage rate, dispute a charge?
Looking at the list just makes you feel overwhelmed.
Exactly.
So you just skip over it and do something easier, like check your email.
Precisely. The anxiety doesn't actually come from having too much to do. It comes from a lack of control, organization, preparation, and clearly defined action.
You haven't sliced the watermelon.
Exactly, you haven't sliced it.
So the goal is to get all of these watermelons out of our internal RAM and into an external hard drive, right?
Yes.
We have to build an external brain. And according to the source material, the very first move to build this architecture is capturing everything.
Yes, the capture phase.
Yeah.
This is the process of gathering 100% of your incompletes into trusted external in trays.
100%.
The 100% rule is non-negotiable here. And it is where most people fail when they try to get organized.
Why is 100% so critical? I mean, if I get 90% of my tasks written down, isn't that a massive improvement?
Logically, yes. Psychologically, no.
Why not?
If your subconscious mind even slightly suspects that you are only capturing the big important things like work projects, but leaving the mundane things like buy dog food or call Aunt Martha to float around in your head, it won't let go.
It doesn't trust the system.
Right. It will refuse to hand over the job of remembering to your external system. It will keep running that Zeigarnik effect.
Wow.
You have to capture everything. Physical mail, digital messages, random midnight ideas, massive projects, tiny errands. All of it must go into a tool outside of your own mind.
You know, it reminds me of what we could call the put it in front of the door trick.
Oh, I like that.
Have you ever had a morning where you needed to take a specific weird item to work, like a signed permission slip or a specific book to return to a coworker?
Oh, all the time.
And you knew, absolutely knew, your morning self would forget it.
Yep.
So the night before, you physically place that item directly on the floor in front of the front door. So you literally have to trip over it to leave the house.
It is a brilliant instinctual psychological trick.
Yeah.
What you're doing is acknowledging that the smart, rational version of yourself the night before recognizes that the groggy, rushing, stressed version of yourself the next morning is fundamentally untrustworthy.
Completely untrustworthy.
So you install a trap for your future self. Capturing your open loops works exactly the same way.
Setting traps.
You are setting up reliable traps. Physical in trays on your desk, digital note-taking apps on your phone, a notepad by your bed, so that your brain doesn't have to carry the burden of remembering.
Let me stop you there, though, because I can see a massive pitfall here.
What's that?
If I am writing down every single random thought, every tiny task, and have notebooks on my desk, a notes app on my phone, sticky notes on my monitor, a physical inbox for mail, and starred emails in my inbox.
Right.
Am I not just moving the chaos from inside my head into the physical world? That sounds like a hoarder's approach to productivity.
That is a very real danger, and the methodology anticipates it.
Yeah.
The golden rule for capturing is to minimize your capture buckets.
Okay, minimize them.
You should have as many as you need to capture ideas seamlessly in any context, but as few as you can possibly get by with.
Meaning what, exactly?
If you have 20 different places where you jot down notes, 3 different digital apps, a whiteboard, sticky notes everywhere, a physical notebook, voicemails, and your email inbox,
Sounds exhausting.
you will never, ever be able to review and empty them all consistently. The friction is too high.
And if you can't empty them?
You lose trust in the system.
Yeah.
And the moment you lose trust that your external brain is reliable, your biological brain takes the job back. The hum returns.
So you need to consolidate.
Yes. Maybe you have one physical tray for paper, one digital app for notes, and your email inbox. That's it.
Okay, consolidate the buckets. But honestly, a full bucket is just centralized anxiety.
True.
I mean, getting all your mail into a nice wooden tray on your desk doesn't mean your mail is handled. It just means it is sitting in a tray staring at you.
That is very true.
How do we actually empty these things without just putting the stress back into our heads?
This is where we transition into the clarify phase. This step is where the actual heavy lifting of knowledge work truly happens.
Okay, clarify.
Getting your in tray to empty does not mean doing all the work in the tray right then and there. That's a huge misconception. Emptying the tray means making a clear, specific, executive decision about what every single item actually is. You have to pick up the top item in your bucket and ask one fundamental question.
Which is?
What is it, and is it actionable?
It sounds deceptively simple. Is it actionable? But it is a profound shift in behavior.
It really is.
Usually, we just look at a pile of stuff, feel a wave of dread, and decide we need to get organized, which usually just means shuffling the paper into neater piles.
Exactly. Just moving the piles around.
But here, you have to process it item by item. So let's play this out. I pick up a piece of mail, or I open an email, and I ask, is this actionable?
Right.
And the answer is no. There's nothing I actually need to do about this right now. What happens to it?
If the item is truly non-actionable, you have 3 and only 3 options.
Okay.
First, and most importantly, trash it.
Just throw it away.
If it has no potential future value, no legal or tax implication, toss it, delete it, shred it. Do not keep it out of a vague sense of, oh, I might need to know this someday.
Which is incredibly hard for some people. There is a real psychological friction to deleting things.
Absolutely. It triggers a scarcity mindset,
Yeah.
but you have to be ruthless.
Okay, so trash is option 1.
If it's not trash, your second option is to incubate it. This is for things that require no action now, but might later.
Like what?
You put these on a someday maybe list, like learn Spanish or climb Kilimanjaro. It acts as a psychological relief valve. It acknowledges the desire without committing the resources.
Oh, like that.
Or you put it in a tickler file, which is a system that brings the item back to your attention on a specific future date. Say, a flyer for a concert that tickets don't go on sale for until next month.
And the third option for non-actionable stuff.
Reference. This is material that requires no action but has intrinsic value as information.
Okay.
A takeout menu, instructions for a new appliance, notes from a past project that might be relevant later.
I have a bone to pick with reference filing, though.
Go for it.
In my experience, filing cabinets are where documents go to die. And I resist filing because it is tedious.
Which is why the rule for reference material is that filing it has to be fast, easy, and practically zero friction.
Zero friction.
If your physical filing system requires a 10-step process with color-coded labels, or if your physical file drawer is jammed so tight you have to wrestle a folder into it,
Yeah, you won't do it.
you will subconsciously resist filing. You will just leave the paper on your desk. The barrier to entry must be 0. A simple A to Z alphabetical system is usually best. Don't overcomplicate it.
Okay, that makes sense. So that handles the no path.
Yeah.
But what if I look at an email from my boss and the answer is yes, this is actionable. I have to do something about this.
If the answer is yes, you enter a different decision matrix. The very first filter you pass it through is the legendary 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule.
If the next physical action required to move this item forward takes less than 2 minutes to complete, you do it immediately, right then and there.
Why 2 minutes? I mean, why not 5 or 10?
Because of the physics of task switching and systemic friction.
How so?
If an action takes less than 2 minutes, the time and energy it would take to formally write it down, categorize it, store it in your system, and retrieve it later to actually do it vastly exceeds the time it takes to just finish it in the moment.
Oh, I see. It's an efficiency cutoff.
Exactly. It clears out an immense volume of small, nagging tasks. Quick replies, forwarding a document, filing a quick form. Many people find the 2-minute rule to be the single most transformative habit they adopt from this entire methodology.
But inevitably, most real work takes longer than 2 minutes. I mean, writing the quarterly report isn't a 2-minute job.
No, it's not. So when it takes longer than 2 minutes, you move to the second option. Delegate it.
Delegate.
Ask yourself, am I the absolute best and right person to be doing this action? If not, hand it off to the appropriate person.
But there's a catch.
Right. Yes. And this is critical. If you care about the outcome, you must track that you handed it off. You don't just throw it over the fence and forget it.
And if I can't delegate it, if it takes an hour, and it absolutely has to be me,
Then you move to option 3. Defer it.
defer it.
You defer it by placing a reminder of it on a specific list to do later when you actually have the time and context to execute it.
And this brings up what I think is the most vital, foundational concept of the entire system.
Oh, yeah.
When we decide to defer something, we can't just write down the name of the project. We discussed earlier how having bank or car repairs on a list is stressful because they are watermelons. They aren't actions.
Right. The essence of knowledge work is determining the very next physical, visible activity required to move a situation forward.
The next physical action.
I cannot stress this enough. You cannot do a project. You can only do an action step related to that project.
This is a huge paradigm shift. So instead of writing car repairs on my deferred list, I have to do the critical thinking up front while I'm processing my inbox.
Yes.
I have to ask, what is the actual next physical thing I need to do in the real world? Maybe the answer is call Fred to get the phone number of the mechanic he recommended.
There you go.
Call Fred is a physical, visible action. I can pick up my phone and execute that. Car repairs is just an amorphous blob of undoability.
Amorphous blob of undoability is a fantastic descriptor.
Thank you.
The friction of starting a task, that procrastination we all feel, almost always comes from the fact that the next physical action hasn't been defined.
We don't know what to actually do.
Your brain looks at car repairs and feels overwhelmed by the unmade decisions. But when you define exactly what doing looks like, dialing Fred's number, the resistance to doing it drops significantly.
You have sliced the watermelon into a bite-sized piece.
Exactly.
Okay, let's take a breath and look at where we are.
Sounds good.
We've captured all our stuff into a few trusted buckets. We've gone through those buckets item by item. We've trashed the junk, incubated the maybes, filed the reference, done the 2-minute tasks, and delegated what we could.
Yeah.
What we are left with is a stack of clearly defined physical next actions that we have to do ourselves.
Now we need to organize them. Where does this clarified stuff actually go? The overarching principle of organization here is the absolute necessity of hard edges.
Hard edges.
The categories and lists you create must be pristinely distinct from one another. They cannot bleed into each other, or the system will inevitably collapse.
Let's start with the calendar. Because the rule here feels like heresy to anyone raised on traditional time management.
It really does.
I was raised on the Franklin Covey method, where you time block every minute of your day and prioritize your list as A1, A2, B1, and you write it all right there on today's calendar page.
Sure.
But GTD says absolutely no daily to-do lists on the calendar. Why abandon the daily list?
Because the daily to-do list is a relic of a slower era. In the modern world of knowledge work, a predefined daily list is a recipe for constant frustration.
How so?
Let's say you plan your perfect day on your calendar. At 10 a.m., your boss bursts in with a crisis, or a critical server goes down, or a major client threatens to leave.
Everything changes.
Suddenly, your pristine A1, A2, B1 list is completely obsolete. And at the end of the day, you have to look at all those undone tasks, cross them out, and rewrite them on tomorrow's page.
Which feels awful.
Having to rewrite undone tasks day after day is incredibly demoralizing. It breeds a sense of failure.
So the calendar is sacred ground. What actually gets to go on it?
Only 3 things are allowed on the calendar. First, time-specific actions, like a 2 p.m. meeting or a 10 a.m. dentist appointment.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second, day-specific actions. These are things that absolutely must be done on a specific day, but not necessarily at a specific time.
For example?
Like, call Susan before she leaves for her London flight tomorrow. It has to happen Tuesday, but anytime Tuesday is fine.
Got it.
And third, day-specific information. This isn't an action. It might be a reminder that a key colleague is on vacation, or that today is the deadline for a specific tax submission.
So it's just a hard landscape.
The rule is, if you write it on your calendar, it is a hard landscape. It must happen that day, or the world falls apart.
Which leaves the obvious question. Where do all those other deferred actions go?
Right.
The call Fred about the mechanic-type tasks that need to get done as soon as possible, but don't strictly have to happen on Tuesday.
They go on next actions lists. But critically, you don't just dump them onto one giant scrolling list of doom.
The list of doom.
Right. They are sorted by context.
I love context sorting. It was a massive light bulb moment for me.
It's a game changer.
A context is essentially the physical location or the specific tool you need to do the action. So instead of one list, you might have an at computer list, an at phone list, an at errands list, or an at office list.
Precisely. Think about the logic. If you were sitting at your desk at work, deep in a spreadsheet, it does absolutely no good to look at a list that says buy nails at the hardware store or clean the garage.
No, you can't do anything about it.
You cannot physically do those things right now. Seeing them only creates cognitive noise and stress.
So sorting by context filters out the noise. When I am sitting at my computer, I open my at computer list, and I only see the actions I can actually execute right then.
Exactly.
If I have 20 minutes before a meeting and I'm exhausted, maybe I open my at phone list and just make 3 quick calls. It removes the friction of having to scan a list of 50 items to find the 3 I can actually do.
It is about matching your execution to your environment. Now, what about the bigger things? We mentioned earlier that you can't do a project, but we still need to track them, or we will lose the forest for the trees.
Right, which is what the projects list is for.
Yeah.
But we need to redefine what a project actually is, because GTD has a very specific, almost surprisingly broad definition.
A project is defined as any desired result, achievable within a year, that requires more than one action step to complete.
Wait, any desired result requiring more than one step? So get new tires is a project.
Absolutely it is. Think about it. Get new tires requires researching brands online, calling the local shop for a quote, scheduling the physical appointment, and actually driving the car in.
It is definitively more than one action.
The purpose of the projects list is not to be a massive folder storing all your plans and details. Those belong in your reference files. The projects list is simply an index of finish lines.
An index of finish lines. I really like that.
It is a stake in the ground to remind you that an open loop still exists. You review this list to ensure that every single active project has at least one current defined next action sitting on one of your context lists.
Like, if it doesn't.
If a project doesn't have a next action, it is stalled and you need to define one.
And the final piece of the organizational puzzle is the waiting for list.
Yes.
This is a lifesaver for managers or anyone who collaborates. It's just a simple context list tracking anything you have delegated or are waiting to get back from someone else.
Exactly.
You review it and you say, I asked Dave for that financial report last Tuesday. I need to send him a follow-up email. It prevents other people's bottlenecks from becoming your forgotten failures.
So let's step back. If you have done all this, you have successfully built the architecture of an external brain.
It's all built.
You have a trusted system holding your pristine calendar, your next actions sorted by context, your index of active projects, and the things you're waiting for. You are organized, but a perfect system rots if you never look at it. This brings us to maintaining the machine.
This is where the wheels usually fall off for me. I've built beautiful, pristine productivity architectures in apps like Notion or Asana, and 2 weeks later, they are absolute graveyards.
Yep, that happens a lot.
Because a system isn't a one-time build, it's an organism that needs maintenance.
Which brings us to what is arguably the most crucial habit of the entire GTD methodology. The weekly review.
The weekly review.
The weekly review is the master key. Without it, everything we've discussed so far is completely useless.
Why do people fail at this so often?
Because it requires stopping the actual doing of work to reflect on the work. Once a week, usually on a Friday afternoon or Sunday morning, you must deliberately step back.
And do what?
You gather all the new loose papers and digital inputs that have accumulated. You empty your head of any lingering thoughts that haven't been captured. You review every single active project to ensure it has a next action. You review your waiting for list. You update everything.
It's like, think about that Friday afternoon right before you leave for a 2-week vacation.
Oh, yeah.
You know that state. You become a machine.
Totally.
You clean your physical desk, you reply to every critical email, you hand off tasks to coworkers, you close every single open loop because you know you are checking out.
And how does it feel?
When you finally walk out the office door, you feel this incredible, almost euphoric sense of clarity and control. You can actually relax on the beach because your brain deeply trusts that everything is handled.
Exactly.
My question is, why on earth do we accept only feeling that way once a year?
We shouldn't. The weekly review is explicitly designed to artificially induce that exact pre-vacation clarity every single week.
Every single week.
If you don't clean house and refresh the contents of your system weekly, the system will naturally degrade. The moment you look at your at-computer list and see a task, you finished 3 days ago, you lose trust in the list.
And when you lose trust,
the moment you lose trust, your brain takes the job of remembering back and the anxiety hum starts all over again.
Okay, so let's say I'm disciplined. The system is clean. The weekly review is done. It's Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. How do I actually choose what to do in the moment?
Good question.
I have 50 tasks across different lists. How do I decide? We use a 4-criteria model for making choices in the moment.
Yes. The first criterion is context, which we discussed. Where are you and what tools do you have?
Right.
If you are stuck on a train without Wi-Fi, you can't do your at-computer tasks. You filter out what is impossible.
The second is time available. Do you have a hard stop for a meeting in 10 minutes?
If so, you shouldn't start a task that requires an hour of deep, unbroken focus. You knock out a few quick emails instead.
The third is energy available, and this is incredibly underappreciated.
Oh, heavily underappreciated.
Are you fresh, highly caffeinated, and ready for deep creative problem solving? Or is it 4 p.m. on a Thursday and your brain is absolute mush?
You must match the cognitive load of the task to your current biological energy level. Don't try to write a strategic vision document when you are exhausted. Do your mindless filing instead.
And finally, the fourth criterion is priority. Given your current context, your available time, and your energy level, what action out of your remaining options gives you the highest payoff right now?
This four-part model moves you from frantically hoping you're making the right choice to confidently trusting you're making the right choice. But the concept of priority is tricky.
Yeah, priority can be vague.
To truly understand priority, we have to zoom out and look at the 6 horizons of focus. This is an altitude model designed to align your daily actions with your life's purpose.
Let's expand on this, because it's where GTD shifts from a simple task manager to a life philosophy. Imagine you're standing on the ground floor of a building. The ground level is your current actions. The hundreds of emails, calls, and errands we've been talking about.
Right.
Horizon 1, just above that, is your current projects. Those 30 to 100 outcomes requiring multiple steps that we defined earlier.
Horizon 2 elevates you further. This looks at your areas of focus and accountabilities.
Like what?
These are the hats you wear, the roles you play. In your professional life, you might be responsible for staff development, strategic planning, or financial reporting.
And personally?
In your personal life, it's your health, your finances, your role as a parent or a spouse. You don't finish these areas. You maintain standards within them. They generate projects.
Right. If my Horizon 2 area focuses health, that generates a Horizon 1 project of run a half marathon, which generates a ground level action of buy running shoes.
Exactly. Moving higher, Horizon 3 represents your 1 to 2 year goals. Where do you want your career or your personal life to be in 24 months?
Okay, Horizon 3 is medium-term goals.
Horizon 4 is your 3 to 5 year vision. Long-term career trends, massive organizational shifts, major lifestyle transitions.
And finally, Horizon 5 is purpose and principles, the ultimate why. Why does your company exist? Why do you exist? What are the core values you refuse to compromise?
Understanding these horizons is critical because true priority is always dictated by the higher altitudes.
It trickles down.
You can't truly prioritize your ground level actions until you understand your projects. You can't pick the right projects unless they fulfill the responsibilities of your roles.
Your roles must serve your 2-year goals, which align with your 5-year vision, which ultimately must be an expression of your core purpose.
Yes.
Let me give a real-world example of what happens when these horizons are out of alignment, because it causes so much misery.
Go ahead.
Let's say you have a ground-level task to research a massive new CRM software. That task belongs to a Horizon 1 project, implement new CRM. But your Horizon 2 role as an operations manager is currently evaluated purely on cutting costs. And your Horizon 3 goal is to get promoted by saving the company money.
Oh, I see where this is going.
There is a massive cognitive dissonance there.
Yeah.
You will procrastinate on that CRM research endlessly because, subconsciously, you know that executing it violates your higher altitude goals. The system is fighting itself.
That is a brilliant example. The friction isn't laziness. It's a structural misalignment. When your horizons are aligned, the friction vanishes.
So everything we've talked about so far, capturing, clarifying, organizing, reflecting, engaging the horizons, they manage our work horizontally.
Right, horizontally.
They keep the whole massive, chaotic landscape of our lives under control. But what happens when we need to dive deep into a single, complex problem? We can't just manage the surface. We need vertical focus.
Horizontal control maintains coherence across all activities so nothing slips through the cracks. Vertical control manages the deep thinking, development, and complex coordination of an individual topic or project. And the most brilliant, experienced planning machine in the known universe is already sitting right inside your skull, your brain.
The methodology points out that we naturally plan all the time without realizing it. Think about planning a dinner out with friends. It's a project.
Sure.
But you don't start by opening an Excel spreadsheet, mapping out dependencies, and assigning Gantt charts.
No, your brain follows a very specific natural sequence. First, you start with purpose. Why are we doing this? To satisfy hunger, to catch up with old friends, or maybe to celebrate a promotion.
The purpose dictates the parameters.
Then you establish principles. What are our boundaries? It needs to be affordable and someone is vegetarian. Next, you automatically generate a vision, a sensory image of the desired outcome.
You picture sitting in a loud, cozy Italian bistro having a great time.
Once you have that vivid picture, your brain automatically starts brainstorming to bridge the gap between your current reality sitting on your couch and that cozy Italian bistro.
Ideas just pop up randomly. Is Luigi's open on Tuesdays? Who should we invite? Do we have enough gas in the car? Should we get a babysitter?
It's chaotic, but it's vital data. After the brainstorming phase, your mind naturally begins organizing.
It sorts the random ideas by components, sequences, or priorities.
First, we need to check if the restaurant is open. If it is, then we call the babysitter. Then we get dressed.
And finally, you identify the next action. Pick up the phone and look up Luigi's hours.
Purpose, vision, brainstorming, organizing, next action. We do it seamlessly for a dinner out.
But in the corporate world, we usually plan completely backward. It's what the source calls the unnatural or reactive model.
It happens every single day in conference rooms globally. A manager walks in, writes a vague topic on a whiteboard, and asks the room, okay, who has a good idea about this new initiative?
And what happens? Everyone freezes. I have been in that room.
Me too.
I have led that room, unfortunately. I once walked into a meeting about a botched product launch, slapped the product name on the board and said, all right, let's brainstorm solutions.
Let me guess.
It was crickets. Complete silence.
Because you violated the natural planning model. The room freezes because the purpose hasn't been clarified, the vision of what a successful outcome looks like hasn't been defined, and no underlying data has been gathered.
Right.
Asking a group for a good idea before doing that foundational work causes creative constipation. It leads to reactive planning.
A crisis hits. People panic, they work overtime, and eventually they sit in a room drawing boxes around the problem, redrawing organizational charts or tweaking software without actually addressing the fundamental why.
So how do we fix it? When we are stuck on a big project, we have to lean into what psychologists call distributed cognition.
Distributed cognition, which is basically a fancy academic way of saying use an external tool to brainstorm.
Exactly. The text gives this great example of writing quotes, tasks, and notes on 3x5 index cards and physically spreading them all over the living room floor to see the structure emerge, or using mind maps on a massive whiteboard.
The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. Your biological brain will only give you as many ideas as it thinks you can safely hold and utilize.
Right.
If you try to keep a complex 50-step project entirely in your head, your mind will literally choke off the flow of new ideas because it knows it will lose them.
It protects itself from overload.
But the moment you start writing them down objectively on index cards, on a whiteboard, in a digital document, the brain opens the floodgates.
It visually sees that the ideas are safely stored externally, so it trusts the process and provides more of them.
It's like unlocking extra processing power. So to practically apply this when we are stuck on a project, we need to consciously walk through the 5 phases of natural planning.
Phase 1 is purpose and principles. Asking why are we doing this to find success? It seems obvious, but it is rarely asked.
Yeah.
If you don't know the exact purpose of a standing weekly meeting, how can you possibly know if it was a good meeting? Purpose expands your options.
Like, if the purpose of a project is increase sales by 10%, that's narrow.
But if the purpose is increase market share, well, maybe you don't need to push sales. Maybe you need to acquire a competitor.
Wow, that is a huge distinction. Phase 2 is vision. And this taps into something called the reticular activating system, or RAS, in the brain.
The RAS is essentially the brain's filtering gateway to conscious awareness. At any given moment, millions of bits of sensory data are hitting your brain. The RAS decides what gets through to your conscious mind.
Right.
Have you ever bought a new car, say, or a red Honda, and suddenly you see red Hondas everywhere?
All the time.
They were always there, but your RAS was filtering them out. By buying the car, you told your RAS, this is important to me.
So how does that apply to project planning?
When you clearly define a vision, a vivid, detailed picture of a successful outcome, you are programming your reticular activating system.
Like a homing missile.
Exactly. Your brain acts like a homing missile.
Oh.
It automatically starts filtering the world, searching for data, resources, and opportunities to make that vision a reality, even when you aren't consciously thinking about the project.
That is incredible. Okay, phase 3 is brainstorming. Now that the RAS is primed, we let the ideas fly. The golden rule here, go for quantity, not quality.
Yes.
Do not judge, challenge, or evaluate the ideas as they come out. Just get them out of your head and onto paper or a whiteboard. The weird, crazy, bad ideas often contain the conceptual seed of the brilliant solution.
Only after the brainstorming is exhausted do you move to phase 4, organizing. Once the ideas are out of your head and visible in front of you, the natural structure will reveal itself.
You identify the key components, the sequence of events, and the priorities. You group the index cards.
And finally, phase 5, always bringing it back to reality. Next, actions. What is the very next physical thing that needs to happen to move this newly structured project forward?
The beauty of the natural planning model is its diagnostic power. If a project is stuck and causing you anxiety, you can use this model to figure out exactly where you are blocked.
If you are confused and overwhelmed by details, you probably need more organizing or brainstorming.
If the team is arguing and the vision is unclear, you need to go all the way back to phase 1 and redefine the purpose.
And if you have a great plan but you just aren't moving, you need to drop down to phase 5 and define the physical next action.
Let's bring this all together. True productivity, at least according to the depths of this methodology, isn't about working harder or working longer hours or sweating over a color-coded priority list.
No, it's not.
It is about appropriate engagement with your life. It is about taking all those open loops, those heavy commitments that are draining your RAM and creating that constant hum of anxiety and externalizing them into an architecture you can actually trust.
It is fundamentally about moving from a reactive, firefighting state of chronic stress to a proactive state of relaxed control.
By religiously capturing, clarifying, organizing, reflecting, and engaging appropriately, you allow your brain to stop being a stressed-out storage drive.
You return it to its natural evolutionary state, a creative, problem-solving engine.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to chew on.
Let's hear it.
If you actually commit to this, if you successfully build this external brain, if you tame your inboxes, if you master the weekly review, and you offload all that mundane tracking and worrying, what happens next?
What dormant parts of your mind will finally have the quiet space to wake up?
Exactly. If you never, ever had to worry about a forgotten task or a missed deadline again, what incredible things would your mind naturally choose to focus on with all that newly freed RAM?
It is a profound question. We spend so much energy just trying to keep our heads above water. When the noise finally stops, the real impactful thinking can begin.
Imagine looking at that mental browser, and instead of a million tabs playing overlapping audio, finally seeing just one clear, perfectly focused tab. I think that is the ultimate goal. Thanks for diving deep with us today.